So welcome, everybody. My name is Meg Duguid. I'm the Director of Exhibitions for DEPS here at Columbia College. I'm thrilled to welcome you to the Artist Talk for Detritus and Desire, the 2021 Undergraduate Fine Arts Thesis Exhibition. This show features the work of 4 BFA candidates in Columbia College's Fine Arts program for the Department of Art and Art History. The exhibition, which includes drawings, prints, books, video, and installation work, represents the culmination of 4 years worth of development of a cohesive body of work for each artist while earning their degrees. Participating artists include Adela, Darby, and Miranda Randel. This exhibition, taking place at our C33 Gallery, located on the corner of Wabash Avenue and Ida B. Wells Drive, runs through August 26th. You can view the exhibition in person Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or get to know the artists online through our artist profile series at students.colum.edu/deps. This show has been stewarded by the venerable Adam Brooks, a professor here in Art and Art History Department. And before I kind of introduce Adam, I just want to take a quick moment and congratulate all of our exhibiting artists on a really amazing thesis presentation. The show looks phenomenal. If you have not had a chance to go in and you are willing to travel, I would highly recommend that you go in person. And of course, we could not have done this without Adam. Exactly, yes. I like the clapping here is important. Adam Brooks is an artist, a curator, an educator, and an overall joy to work with. He teaches, among other things, new genres, professional practice, senior studio, and the Art Now lecture series, as well as in foundations. His work is in the collection of the Art Institute of Chicago and the Museum of Contemporary Art Chicago, as well as in many, many private collections. He co-founded the collaborative project Industry of the Ordinary with Matthew Wilson in 2003. Their collaborative was named in September 2018 among the 50 most influential artists in Chicago by New City Magazine. Brooks holds an MFA from the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. And with that, I will hand this over to Adam.
Meg, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. And before I introduce the artists, I also have a few people that I would like to thank. First and foremost, Meg Duguid and Mark Porter of DEPS, the Department of Exhibitions, Performance and Student Spaces, for their tireless work in managing and mounting this exhibition. It's been a long haul over the last 10 days, but we could not possibly have done this without Meg and without Mark. So thank you both for all of your efforts on our behalf and on behalf of the students. I would also like to thank my colleagues, Amy Mooney and Joan Giroux, who oversaw in Amy's part and proofed on Joan's part the catalog for the exhibition, which was written by senior art history students, Sam Collins, Oku Kolat, Ife, who is playing a double role here as both writer and artist, and Angeline Leonard. Sylvia Fachny wrote the introduction for the catalog. Jenna Karucki laid it out and designed it. In addition to that, I'd like to thank the chair of the Art and Art History Department, Duncan McKenzie, and Dean Rosita Sands of the School of Fine and Performing Arts. So without any more ado, I would like to introduce our 4 artists, each of whom is going to talk for a few minutes about the work in the show. They have documented the installation, and so each of them will walk us through their particular work. After each presentation, I will ask them each a couple of questions, And then when we finish the presentations, I would encourage everyone who's here to ask your own questions of the artists, because this is really this year's opportunity to meet and interrogate all of the artists in the BFA show. So we're going to go in order of the work in the gallery. But before I ask Darby Jack to lead us off, I know that Miranda has a video that she shot yesterday in the space in order that you can all get a sense of how the installation of the BFA show actually looks. So Miranda, if you would like to share your screen and play that, that video.
Yeah. All right, there's no audio for it, it's just a shot, so there we go.
So this is Ive's installation. This is Amanda's installation. This is Miranda's installation.
I think Darby's a great beginning to, yeah.
Yeah, so
Those are
that
great.
wall drawing is Darby Jack's. So that gives you all a sense of the space. And now I will ask Darby Jack to kick things off for us.
All right, well, thank you so much. Thank you to everybody that's coming or has come out today to hear us all jab about our work. And we've all worked very hard this week, and I'm very proud and excited of the work we made. I want to start off with just a few thank yous myself. First of all, thank you to my mom and dad who have given me endless support throughout these past few years here at Columbia. Of course, thank you so much to Mark and Meg, who I've had the chance to work with on a few different things this semester, and they have stuck with me through thick and thin. So I appreciate them a whole lot. Thank you, of course, to Adam Brooks, who has been a very fantastic BFA advisor and a professor that I have always been excited to work with these past 4 years as well. All the other faculty and staff that I've been able to work with over the past few years, many of whom are in the audience today. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for supporting me and giving me wonderful feedback and really just molding me into the person I am today. Thank you so much to all of my friends that have had to endure me talking about trash for the past few months to a fault almost. And thank you so much to the rest of the artists that are in the show with me. I just really enjoy working with all of you, and it's been a really, really fantastic time putting this all together. And especially thank you to Ife, who wrote my profile for the catalog and somehow did not make me sound like a complete doofus. So I appreciate that. So why don't we get this show on the road? All right, I'm gonna make you all very small so I don't have to look at you. So I'm just gonna take you through kind of how my semester has been and the things that I've worked on and how I got to where I am with the BFA exhibition today. So at the beginning of the semester, of course, we've been in this very weird and unfortunate time, but it's given me the opportunity to switch my practice to a more digitally based one, or at least it was there at the beginning of the semester. And this here on the left is a still from a video that I put together called What's Behind Those Ping Pong Balls, which was a video made from found footage from YouTube, where I zoomed in on the eyeballs of puppets. And the image on the right is from a zine I made called Craig's Lost, where I compiled photos of really somber and interesting looking people from ads on Craigslist where they're selling mirrors. And I included this into the show because this was really my first foray into the style of working that I've chosen to take on today. And what I mean by that is I've been really interested in compiling videos, compiling images, and organizing them in unique and interesting ways to sort of recontextualize their meaning. And I think now more than ever with things like YouTube and Instagram and Pinterest and Tumblr and Google, we have so many images and videos at our disposal, and I think I've just been really attracted to kind of curating those and being a curator as part of my practice. And that's why I included this next bit. I was very happy to have the opportunity to put together this show at the beginning of the semester. You can see my videos here on the left with projected on the wall there. But I was able to work with some of my favorite artists here at Columbia, and it was really such a fantastic learning experience to put this show together, and kind of added to that love of the curatorial way of working. So I got a prompt for a print exchange a while back that was titled Reckoning. The prompt was Reckoning. And that was kind of up to interpretation, and I was taking lots of walks because of COVID. I was walking all around the city of Chicago, and I found myself noticing trash that was unique and trash that I would see multiples of. Like, I don't know if you see this crab classic chunk style, but you'd be surprised how many of those you find in Chicago, just all over the place. I'm wondering if it's one guy or maybe many lovers of crab classic that I'm just unaware of. But I got really into collecting all of these images of trash, and I was thinking about ways I could use them and utilize all of their really interesting shapes and designs that we sort of just glance past just because it is these, it's just detritus, on the ground. And so what I decided to do is I decided to use these trash drawings to create, or just for inspiration, to create these trash pile drawings. So this is the first one I ever made right here. And the idea behind it is kind of, what if, we were some sort of alien or something like that, and we were to come back and we were to see what was left over from what we made. We wouldn't necessarily recognize anything necessarily that's, that we know of to our own lives because it's this different planet, but we're sort of, things are familiar and there's familiar shapes, and it, it's just very wild and all over the place. And that was kind of, tied in with that reckoning, reckoning with all of this, just trash and rubble that we are leaving everywhere. And I mean, if you're in the city like I am and you just look out, everything you see is man-made, and there's nothing that was there naturally. And I actually have to credit Simon Newth, who was a student a couple years ago, just because he did so many amazing projects about the environment, and that really, really stuck with me, and about what's going to happen when humans are gone and we have all this stuff that's left over. So this was the first foray into the trash pile drawings. And then I started to develop them. These are the two sketches that are in the show here on our communal wall. And I started to take a lot longer with them. And I would do them, it's all improvised as I go along, and kind of in a, mechanical drawing kind of way. You know, I just kind of sit there and give it one big exertion and just do it, you know. And I create the trash on the way, and I sort of have the different trash pieces play with each other in different fashions. So I wanted to expand on that even more, and I started working on more large scale pieces. This is the one that's behind me right now, but I wanted to have something that was extremely durational and kind of allowed me to sort of meditate on what I was doing. And I also just liked how extreme and kind of crunchy and craggly it looked. And at the time, I was listening to a lot of really intense music and really harsh music. And I was very angular, and I was looking at a lot of art that was kind of sketchy and a little rough around the edges too. And I definitely think that fed into this. So my idea for the Bfa exhibition was to do a large-scale durational wall drawing with found pencils that I've just happened to pick up on the ground over time. And I even started picking up pencils off the ground before I knew I was going to be even doing this. So I had a small collection of them at the ready. And I decided to do a large scale wall drawing that would go up. I would do the whole week before the show, and I did it the whole week. It took a long time to do this, but at the end of the show, it would just be painted over and ephemeral, much like the trash that it depicts. So I have a small time lapse here, so you can kind of get a idea of what's going on. So it did, in fact, take me much longer than I thought it was going to, but I really found myself sort of getting into this crazy headspace and completely zoning out while I was doing this. And I really had a good time doing it. I think after staring at a wall and drawing trash for 5 days, however, it did take a little bit of a toll just on my psyche. I was a little wired and a little irritable at the time. But yeah, you can see here it's I used a mixture of crayons that I found, graphite pencils, and colored pencils that I found, especially around Columbia. I mean, if you have a bunch of artists running around the same space, you know, people draw pencils, and it's very easy to find there. But yeah, so I'll let this roll for a minute. And in fact, you know, I had this time lapse made, and I put it all together, and the initial time lapse was like 4 minutes long. But I had to even speed up the time lapse because of how long this was taking. So unfortunately, I didn't get the full process, and I did wind up just laying on the floor and just trying to chug away in uncomfortable, weird positions once I got to the end. But this kind of gives you an idea of the process behind it. And let's see here. Let me go to the next one. And this is the finished product right here. So if you, of course, I know it's a lot to look at, and if you ever want a picture of it, please email me and I'd be happy to send you one over, or of course, go see it in person at the show. So along with this, I wanted to emphasize the trash pictures as well that I used to use as influence for this piece. So I made a small publication to go along with it, not even publication, just a small book that I made also out of trash to continue to stick with that trash motif. That included some of my drawings as well as some cut up images of the trash that I found. This, of course, is my pee bottle collection, and it's I include that because it's the most common piece of trash that I find, maybe besides a plastic bag. You'd be surprised how many people just think that's the way of doing things, you know. But hey, I don't want to, you know, I don't even know what I'm saying. Okay, but anyways, here's a little more trash, and you can see some sketches here as well, and all the different little pieces. Of course, there's the Crab Classic again, and a few more sketches. And I have right here a Joe Ratcliffe photograph or print that I just had seen at the Art Institute, which the trash pile kind of leads into this trash pile, but that was a huge influence for me as well. And I have this small picture from a eco-liberation zine that call it the Black Cat from back in the day. It's not necessarily like, I'm not completely in line with their beliefs, but I did enjoy that line, and I thought it was went along with the piece as well. So that should do it for me. But yeah, thank you.
So Darby, I'm just going to ask you first, and I'll be asking all of you after your presentations a couple of quick questions. How over this past year, this strange COVID shadowed year, do you think that your work has changed, and the particular circumstances of the year, how have they influenced the work that's in the show?
Yeah, absolutely. So before COVID, I was making a lot of large scale paintings in the studio spaces in 1104. And once COVID hit, of course, we didn't have access to our studios anymore. I had to go back to Birmingham, and there was a long period of time where I just didn't know what to make. I was kind of just making some small little things that I wasn't completely attached to just to keep my hands moving. But of course, after COVID, I felt like really everything I was doing pre-COVID um, I didn't connect with it much anymore, and I just wanted to shake things up a bit. So I started doing a lot of digital work just because I could do it on my laptop and in my house. And of course, I started doing drawings because I could just hang the large scale drawing up on the wall and just work on it there. So that's definitely how things shifted around. And of course, I can honestly say that this trash piece would not have come about if I wasn't taking so many walks and really just trying to find ways to get out of the house in a time where we couldn't go anywhere.
And how do you look forwards to the work that may come after this, after you have graduated?
Absolutely. I would love to continue to make these large scale drawings. I want to just have a nice collection of them that I could potentially show. But also I have a couple different paths I want to go to. And since I've found this way of working where I'm collecting images from different places and videos, I think there's a lot of different directions I can go with that as well. And I intend to go in as well too.
Okay, thank you so much. So we are going to rotate around the space. So if you would like to take the floor.
Yeah. Okay. This was, if you want to, is the title of the installation. It was kind of born out of previous installations I've done with like draping material. But previously it's been with like canvas and thinking a lot more of like the history of painting. And with this one, I was a little more interested in clothing and like fabric that we wear. I was watching a lot of like archive runway shows for like Yohji Yamamoto, and just like this abundance of black fabric and like draping and yeah. Here's some detail shots. I feel that I've always had like this interesting relationship with clothing and material and wanting to cover my body and like be hidden, but in a beautiful way. So at the beginning, there's this veiling with this really nice organza that I got. And across the space holding up the fabric is shibari rope, which is like a BDSM bondage rope. So that's what is all of these points. Here's it from the back. I was also interested in creating these shapes with the fabric. So as you walk through and like change positions in the installation, it kind of moves with you and it creates openings and closings. And the main material was this really shiny black polyester, like representing the inside of a suit coat. And suiting has always been really present in my work, as it's like kind of like the epitome of like masculinity, but like there's so many like different ways to wear suiting material, and I've always been drawn to suits and like feeling comfortable wearing them, but like in a more feminine way. So I kind of wanted the installation to act as like walking into a piece of clothing and like feeling like you're putting on clothes or like being draped in the fabric. And then walking in on this projected video where I'm in like a really sheer bodysuit and feeling like this uncomfortable confrontation with my body that's essentially nude, that just stares back at you. So the video runs for about 30 minutes onto this projected surface, which is made out of paper and then draped around with the fabric. And I've made a lot of sculptures out of paper, so it was nice to bring that back into the work. Yeah, I think that's everything.
So let me ask you the same question. How has your experience during the past year influenced the work that we just saw that's in the show?
Sorry, could you restate it?
How has the experience of the last year, particularly with the looming presence of COVID and the dislocation that has caused in multiple ways, how has that influenced the work and perhaps changed the way that you are thinking about the work over the course of this period of time?
Yeah, I feel that over the pandemic, I've put even more thought into the works, which was already like an excessive amount of thinking. But I feel that I have nothing but time to think on the pieces. But it's also changed a lot because before I was doing live performance work, and that's not really possible now. So I was thinking of ways to like incorporate that and like with like video work. And I did a piece for Darby's show a few months ago where it was a live stream performance, which ran for about an hour and a half. But yeah, I would say it's mostly gotten to performing for video now and thinking of how to make video like as present as a performance within an installation. Yeah.
So do you think once things hopefully open up again, that you will go back to live performance, but carry forwards a lot of the things that you've been doing over this past year?
Yeah, I think so. I do miss live performance and like being in front of an audience, but it's also extremely stressful and exhausting. So it is nice to like do more video work where it's just myself and I can edit and do all of that stuff like that's unseen.
Okay, thanks. Amanda.
Hello. There we go. So at sometime during last semester, I don't have a photo of it specifically, but I think it all started because one of the staff members found this place, an open source document that has a 3D printing press, which is like this big. And it's actually, the one I have is in the facility right now. And so for those presses, you can only fit like really small plates on them to be able to print, like roughly 2 inches or smaller. These are actually slightly over. And we also had all of these scraps inside of the printmaking facility that were just sitting there that we did. I will also work in the printmaking facility, but we wouldn't sell those scraps because they were just too small. But they were the perfect size for these little 3D printed presses. And so I cut a bunch of them down for both my class and myself to use. And I started using those to be able to make work with. Like Darby was saying earlier, I also changed what I would do a lot and how I work because of the pandemic. And one of the things I did was start working on a very small scale compared to what I normally would. And I've also started experimenting a lot more. So with these, I saw an opportunity to use what I had available to me and kind of just go for it and experiment, not really pay as much attention to the results or anything else, and just focusing on making and on the process of it. So here's 2 of them that are like a close-up of some of the plates after I etched them. These are 2 of the first ones that I made, I believe. And these are actually 2 of the prints that were printed using the 3D printed press. So those are actually only about like 2x4, I think, roughly. And they're really small. They print very quickly, and they were just a lot of fun to produce and to mess around with and stuff like that. Just like experiment with different things. I also started playing with color around this time. I usually will work with a very limited color palette, and I started experimenting because I had all of these resources, and because they printed so quickly, it wasn't as difficult to, and I didn't have to put as much thought into how they would look. Because if I messed one up, I would just do another one, and I messed plenty of them up in the process. It took a while to figure out how to use. And then I also started printing on these scraps from leftovers from some other prints I would make that were larger. So these are about 7x7, the paper is. And on these sizes, I started experimenting with using gouache to paint on and pen and ink and other materials. I even started sewing on some, but this was the first one I started experimenting with. And just kind of like going from painting to printmaking to actually combining different medias was really exciting for me, and I absolutely loved doing it. And so I kept doing it. I ended up last semester making this small, I call it a book. It's kind of a sculpture object, I would say, as well, where I took a bunch of the 3D printed prints and I sewed them onto here. There's some pages that have image transfers and then the print of the image transfer, and there's a few of them are also transparent that I just went with pen ink and actually drew into. And then after that, I kept making more of these plates this semester. Right now, I believe there are a total of 12 that are inside the gallery. And after I started drawing and painting on them, I started printing them on top of each other and continuing to like push my limits with colors and just experimenting with how I could lay them out, how I could overlap them, what I could make these really simple things do, and how complex I can make them look, despite how small and how like very basic things that they were. Also, all of this just being made of scraps was really fun too, because I didn't have to pay for any of it. It was stuff that was available to me that I was just trying to be resourceful for and using what I had available and what was around me. And here's another one. Just so you can see a couple of them. This one, I just really loved how the color contrasted with the paper. And then something else I did this semester was I started experimenting with other materials. Whenever I tried doing this, the people I was talking to about in the facility, the staff members I worked with, even them and I were all just like, oh, it probably won't work out. Like, it's not going to work. There's no way. Printing a copper plate onto just like normal fabric, this t-shirt and quilt making fabric. And we were all kind of shocked at how well it worked and worked out. And just a second. And I was kind of amazed at the quality I was able to get from it. And it made me really excited, made me want to do more of it. And so then doing all of these things over a semester led me to my thesis. For these larger ones, rather than using huge copper plates to work with, I actually ended up using acrylic. So what I would do is I would buy these huge sheets of acrylic that were 24 by 48, and I would take the smaller plates that you saw at the beginning, vectorize them in Illustrator, which took the longest amount of time probably of anything I did. And then I had them laser cut onto the plates, and I printed with those. And once again, these are also overlapped, and there's gouache on here and maybe some pen, if I remember right. And started printing on these huge sheets of paper and putting them on the mat board, sewing them into it for the larger book, which is basically just my idea for this part of the show is to make a really large scale version of the smaller book that I showed a close up of earlier, and have that as something that the audience could interact with and actually like pick up and move around themselves. If you go in person, you're more than welcome to. And just keep like pushing my limits of what I could do. So throughout this whole thing, I ended up using printmaking facility, a lot of different tools in our fabrication facility on campus. I even ended up going to fashion at the very end to sew all of these down, in which I got help to learn how to use the industrial sewing machine since I only have a personal one. And we experimented with sewing through mat board and paper, which they also weren't sure would work, but obviously did. And it was really fun, like just experimenting, trying new things out, pushing the boundaries of what I think I can do personally and also what other people think what I'm using can do itself. And so you can see on here, there's some of the fabric ones that I actually chose to use an adhesive to glue onto the mat board rather than sewing it like the paper. Partially because I just think it's fun to like mess with what people are expecting it to be and what people think should happen. Like you would think you would have the paper taped down or something and the fabric should be sewn, but because of that makes me want to do the opposite. And inside of the background, you can also see the small book project on the left side and some of the plates on the top, on the shelf behind it. Here's another close-up. And I also was playing around with using different fabrics and using the smaller plates on top of the larger ones. And kind of just based off the first experiments I did, continuing to experiment with how I arranged the fabric and how kind of just like how scrappy I could be myself, because all the fabric I used was scraps I had myself from my own collection of fabric and was also scraps that the fabrication facility had on them as well. And so there are 2 of these larger book pages inside the gallery. And one of them is acrylic. And the acrylic one is actually made up of the laser engraved acrylic plates that I used to actually print the larger fabric and paper pieces. And so at the end, I cut all of them down a little bit and hinged them together. And they're the 3rd page that goes along with this. Inside the back of this as well, you can see the 3D printed press next to some of the plates. And behind that, I also had, well, next to it, actually, I have a video that just shows some of the ways that you could experiment, like try rearrange these and stuff like that, because they're very versatile and they're, if I must say so myself, very fun to play with. And then also behind it, there's kind of this wallpaper looking backdrop on this wall specifically that I decided to do, that I want to be really subtle, make actually it's really close color to the color of the paper, like this nice cream color that just barely overlaps the color of the wall itself. And over here on the left side, you can see the stencils I use for it. And I decided to do that because I just thought it'd be really fun to try like seeing what else I could do with the space and with the tools I had available to me. And you can see on the bottom one, actually, it actually started to fall apart on me at the end because it is made of paper. And I also laser cut these stencils as well. And I decided to include them on our communal wall that we have between the 4 of us, because I have all of the other matrices I used from the acrylic and from the small copper plates. And I thought, why shouldn't I include this one as well? And because with the collective theme we decided on, it's basically trash at this point. Probably will be after. I may or may not keep it. Haven't decided, but I also thought it just worked really well with all of our work and helped tie a lot of things together for everyone. And here's another shot of the space where you can see the edge of the video on the left and the plates on the right. The book on the pedestal, which I also made. And a bottle of hand sanitizer for people to use before they touch my work, which I absolutely would love them to be able to touch them. If you guys can go in person and see this. I was able to see someone actually handling the pieces the other day in the space, and it made me so happy. Like just to actually see it being interacted with and seeing it moved around in ways that I wanted it to, and just seeing how people reacted to the work as well. And then on here, I actually decided to include the animation I made, so you all could see it yourself if you can go. Inside the gallery, it's on an iPad mounted on the wall, and it runs on a loop, so it kind of just keeps going over and over. I don't know if it's looped here or not. We'll see. There we go. Yeah. And that was just another way of experimentation and seeing what I can make that I did during this project. I had no idea how to make an animation that was this like fairly complex as this one is. And after talking to some professors, I realized I did have the skills and knowledge to be able to do it, just not to the extent that I had ever done anything before. And I think I worked on this probably for 2 days straight to try to get it done on time. All of the work I did in general took an extensive amount of time over the semester that I have lost track of at this point. But I really enjoyed all of it and doing everything for this project, and I think that's everything that I have right now. Yeah. Adam, you're muted.
Sorry, yeah. That was excellent, thank you. And you answered the first question about how your work has changed, but I'm wondering, given the myriad ways that you've chosen to extend your practice involving technology of various kinds, low tech and high tech, how you might consider going forwards with your work in light of everything you've done over the past year?
Well, I just want to start by saying that whenever I first started college 4 years ago, I solely would only do drawing and painting, and I was completely intimidated by all of the machines and like by printmaking and everything else that the school has. I was very nervous to use any of it, and through taking courses and through just talking to other people and learning new things, I've learned how to use most of the tools and how to use most of the tools in the facilities in the fabrication facility, from anything from metal working to working with wood, all sorts of other things. I've now worked inside a fashion facility, and I've learned how to do so much with printmaking and just so many other skills that have been invaluable to me over the last few years. But even last year, I would mostly just do paintings. And I started doing these really large scale paintings similarly to Darby. And through the pandemic, I completely was able to expand what I did. And I think it encouraged me to push my boundaries with what I knew and what I thought I could do and what could actually be done, and continue to push that. And that's something I want to continue to do after I graduate and after I leave, is continue to find what resources I have around me and use them to my advantage. I also would love to be able to continue to experiment with technology and to learn what else I can do with technology, which is something else that definitely scared me before. I'm even taking a web design class right now. I'm learning that I'm much better at coding than I ever thought I would have been, which is really exciting, actually. And I don't know, I think pandemic has taught me that being resourceful with what I have around me and learning that I know a lot more than I think I do is really important to me, and something that I really feel important is for me to carry on inside my work after.
Excellent. In a certain way, you're the archetype of the multidisciplinary, cross-disciplinary student that Columbia is so good at producing.
Thank you.
So, Miranda, the floor is yours.
Alrighty. Let me present. There we go. All right, so hello, I am Miranda. My piece for this exhibition was called Into the Virus. This was inspired by partially of COVID-19, of everything that happened with the virus spreading so quickly and attacking different parts of the body and the human body. But also it was partially inspired by a lot of personal and family medical issues that happened over the last couple of years. And just throughout my life, I've had many family members deal with cancers and heart attacks and many other things that attack the human body. So I was really interested in working and exploring those topics. So this is some of the artwork I was making right before or up until I started working on this project. Skin Deep was actually one I recently got to do for the Wabash Art Corridors project that I was so really thrilled and happy I got to do. And this was a molecular and abstract look at like the human cell, skin cell. And then I have these two artworks that I did late last fall, like right after COVID all started. I started really experimenting with cardboard and fabric and painting and using textures on fabric and just seeing what I could use that was around me, because I couldn't really afford to get big, large canvases when COVID all started, and a lot of my art supplies had to be left at Columbia and I couldn't access it until that fall. So I just started really experimenting with what I had around me to try and make artwork. That inspired me to go make this installation for the BFA show. I was inspired a lot by skin texture and cell structure. And growing up, whenever I thought of a virus, I always thought of like the tarred lungs that you would see in like those smoking videos, like don't smoke because you could get a tarred lung. And that's just how I always saw viruses, as they were like this black tarred thing that kind of like came in and ravished your body. And so that was a lot of my inspiration photos and a lot of things that I was inspired by. So once I started the process, I started taking these large sheets of black fabric and treating them with latex and tar and paint and just making them rugged and gross and disgusting for the whole inside of this installation. And then I used paper mache techniques to make these abstract cellular spheres that would then hang and be installed into the installation. And then the whole outside was inspired by the skin tone. And I liked that the fact that I could make the skin tone inside and outside have this translucency like the human skin would if you were to stretch it out. And I played with texture. I used a lot of like diluted wall paint, and I just sprayed white fabric and tore it to make it look like the torn skin in my inspiration photos, which then led me to the actual installation of the artwork. I used a lot of different materials. I used cement, I used plaster, fabric, glue, installation foam, cardboard. I used so many different like sculptural materials that I hadn't really played a lot with before. And this is my first really big time doing a huge installation. I've always been really interested in installation work and work of the human body. And so I thought this would be the best time, if ever, to really push my boundaries and push out of my comfort zone to make something like this. And so when you enter in, you like, when you're looking out, you can see like the skin tones and all the black hanging fabric and all that. And you can see all the installation and the holes that peep into the outside through the window that where this is installed. So you can look on the outside, but you're also surrounded by all this darkness on the inside. So yeah, I'm really, really proud of all the work I got to do this past semester on this. I'm in love with how it turned out, and yeah.
Thank you so much. And again, I think you've talked about the genesis of this project, which obviously ties in to the time. But I'm wondering, again, how looking forwards you might extend, because this I think is the most ambitious work that you've made so far, and how you might extend that as you look forwards.
Yeah, I really have loved the process of making just this type of installation. I would love to be able in the future to be able to make more really interesting human body cellular like structures if I get the opportunity to do that. And also just continuing to work with fabric and unconventional materials. As much as I love painting and drawing, I think as much of us do. I loved getting to just play with like weird fabrics and weird textures, and getting to make interesting installations that deal with human sexuality and the human body and how it all works together. So I'm really excited to be able to continue to that experimentation and that art process of just getting to make and to play and getting people, see people interact with it, you know, go inside and just really get to take everything in. So I'm excited to continue that work.
Well, I have to say, I'm just so proud of what all of you have done. I am kind of in awe, particularly given the fact that I have not actually been in the same space as all of you this entire year. For those of you that don't know, I've been under lockdown in England for the last year. And so I've basically conducted all of this at a distance. And because you're all so dedicated and imaginative, you've been able to carry it off without actually having my physical presence there, which is just amazing. So again, congratulations to all of you. And I would like to open it up. If anyone has questions for any of the artists, we would love to hear them.
Darby, I'm kind of curious because I haven't talked to you about much about your work. But you said like the process of your trash coming together was very like in the moment, and I kind of just want to hear more about that and how you figured out what trash was going to go where and how it all tied together.
Yeah, thank you. Such a great question, and thank you so much for coming too. So back in high school in Birmingham, Alabama, I was at the Alabama School of Fine Arts actually for music. I was a guitar player and I played jazz guitar and small combos. And if you're familiar with jazz music, especially jazz combos in general, the formatting goes is you kind of have like the melody you play, which is called the head. And then there's a break where you play the background music and people improv over the top of that. So I was always really attracted to that improvisational style of doing things and really kind of getting lost in that moment and really being stuck in that space. And I decided that I wanted to approach this piece the same way. And I also figured if I had a pre-made plan at the ready, it would take me just about as long to do anyways. But so all of the trash pieces, I had collected all of these trash photos, and in the time lapse, you may have seen me grabbing my phone, I'm grabbing my laptop a bit. And essentially what I do is I take all of these trash photos in and I look at them, and then I sort of note which piece of the trash and which forms and shapes within that trash kind of attract me. And I take those shapes and I riff on them on the wall. So that's why there's some kind of familiar shapes there. And I essentially sit there, I kind of visualize whatever weird machine or alien thing or, you know, pointy, squishy, you know, messy thing I'm thinking of. And I think about what it looks like, and then I just draw it. So it is, it was very hard to do for so long. So I definitely had to take lots of breaks in between because I was getting bad headaches and things like that. But that's pretty much how the piece came together. And so I just would chug along and keep on going. And because of some of the materials, especially the crayon, I couldn't quite get the definition I wanted out of the crayon. So I decided to just kind of make that crayon some ooze that sort of oozed throughout the pile there and gave it a little different texture there. So that's how I did that.
Any other questions for our artists?
I don't really have a question. I just want to say that I am really super impressed with all of the work. Deborah Parr and I are going to be down on campus tomorrow so that we can see it actually in the real physical form. But I had gotten to know a little bit. Ife and Darby Jack were in class with me last semester, so I'd worked with them before, but I got to know your work, Miranda and Amanda, also through working on the BFA catalog with y'all. And I have to say, even from what I saw, what I read and saw there, and from what I'm seeing in all of your presentations tonight and how you're speaking about the work, I just am exceptionally impressed. And I don't know whether I don't know whether, in fact, maybe in some ways this pandemic experience, as such a challenging experience, has actually maybe caused some things to happen in your work that might not have happened if it had just been business as usual. And I just feel like you're all at the beginning of what will be a really exciting path as makers of objects and experiences and, you know, spaces and performances and all that stuff. So just I just wanted to say that to all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also agree with that I feel like the pandemic definitely pushed us all in directions we wouldn't have gone otherwise.
It's your last chance to ask the artists questions or comments. Well, if there's nothing else, thank you all for coming. Thank you for your support of our students, our artists who are just about to enter the world and become our peers. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you all in person very soon. It's been way too long. So here's my 1 a.m. glass of scotch to you all. Meg, do you want to wrap things up?
Okay, I'm just unmuting really quickly. My background is not currently as good as it was earlier, so I'm gonna keep my camera off. We posted a whole bunch of links in the chat to each of the artists' profiles. They are all worth a read. They were really, really, really fun to kind of edit and put together on our staff's end. So the show is open from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, through the 26th of this month. Please come in person. Additionally, we have the Master of Fine Arts show over on the other side of campus, which is at 1104 South Wabash at the Glass Curtain Gallery, also open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, but it closes on the 21st. This is a part of the Manifest Urban Arts Festival, and there are boatloads of things happening for the Art and Art History program. I dropped that link in the chat as well. But tomorrow night we have a toast to our graduate students. On Friday afternoon, the Art and Art History Symposium is happening. And then on Friday evening, we will be back here to toast these 4 students, as well as their colleagues from the BA program and the Art and Art History presentations. And we will be awarding, or not we, Art and Art History will be awarding the Hollis Sigler Prize, which is a prize for an outstanding work during this festival, which is really the culmination of your degrees. That being said, everyone should get that prize because everyone did such an amazing job. I think we wish we had like 16 of them to give out this year. It's been really amazing to watch everyone work under extremely difficult circumstances. Everyone did an amazing job at a point where literally you cannot open your phone or your door without feeling like the world is falling apart. And some days it's just a battle to wake up. I think, you know, many of your staff and your colleagues have been in that boat, as we've talked a lot about students being in that boat too. really amazing job and really amazing perseverance, and congratulations. With that, I bid you good night.